This girl is so pitiful that she married a Thai guy and was immediately locked up at home. If she made a mistake, her husband would beat her. She tried to escape from this nightmare, but whenever she was caught, she continued her dark life until the day she met a man who could change her fate. Please save me. If I get caught again, I won't be lost. Please, please. The man looked into the distance, and sure enough, he saw a group of fierce people. Looking at Eunhan's pitiful face, he put her in the car and drove her out of the underground parking lot. Eunhan's wrist was still bleeding and tense. He stopped the car in front of the pharmacy, but when he bought the medicine, Eunhan had disappeared. Perhaps it was fate that the two of them accidentally met on the rooftop at night. At this time, Eunhan was depressed and decided to free himself by examining his own body. Yu looked at her very worriedly. Just as he was about to approach to stop he suddenly fainted from a heart attack. Now it's great. He couldn't save the person, but he was saved. After receiving first aid by pressing on his heart, he finally woke up. Even the doctor said that if he had arrived a few seconds later, his life would have been in danger. Eunhan wanted to thank Eunhan, but Eunhan was afraid that her husband would find him, so he left quietly the next day. The story of the girl. Being saved was in the newspaper. Looking at the news on TV, Eunhan just found out that the man named Kang Oo was a doctor in a beauty hospital, holding the photo in her hand and looking at herself in the mirror. Eunhan had a bold idea. She quickly asked for the address of the hospital, then went to Kang Yu and begged him to perform plastic surgery on her because she had a perfect face, but Kang Yu didn't agree. I will repay you in another way because you saved my life, but this unreasonable request still asked her out. Everyone loves beauty, but Eunhan didn't want to be beautiful, but wanted to change. Faced to start a new life. She knelt down to beg for the statue, cried until the tears flowed, but still couldn't convince the statue. Until the next day, a relative of hers came to statue and told the whole story. Statue only then understood Han previously lived in hell, wanted plastic surgery, not for the love of beauty. After thinking carefully, statue decided to help this poor woman. Even though the surgery was risky, Eunhan still resolutely lay on the operating table after more than 10 hours the surgery was finally completed. But when she woke up, Eunhan was a little confused. Looking at herself in the mirror, she couldn't help but scream tensely. Hurriedly went to comfort her after the examination, only to find that Yuan had lost her memory. Couldn't remember her name or what happened before, even forgot her phone password reluctantly. Tenzu had to temporarily take care of her. The two went out for a walk, as a result met Kim, who was looking for someone Eunhan instinctively avoided. Him and Ku also remembered that night in the underground parking lot. It was Kim who led people to chase Eunhan. He helped Eunhan to hide, knowing she had nowhere to go, so he brought her back to his house. The bandage was removed, her appearance had completely changed face, but because of the side effects of the surgery, she forgot everything about her past. She didn't remember who she was. She saw that she had nowhere to go to get a tumor. He let her stay temporarily to find out who she was. She took out the photos of her past and searched everywhere she could. Finally, she discovered that she had some kind of relationship with a wealthy family. She went to the tycoon's house to ask to be a maid as soon as she walked in the door. The luxury surprised her, but she didn't know it. This was the place she tried to escape from. The landlord held the newspaper and came down from upstairs. He said a sentence casually. He poured her a glass of water. Eunhan immediately gave her the glass. Warm water standing at the moment of looking at each other. Eunhan was also very surprised. Strange blanket is not tense. Why are you the host? Tense, Chanky, right? Suchin was not pleased when Eunhan casually barged in, about to kick her out. When Chanky next to him said, I am the host. I need to protect my throat in this heat and give me a glass of warm water. Not everyone can do this. Only then was Eunhan allowed to stay. Suchin did not like her. She spoke very coldly and warned you here, you can't talk nonsense, and you can't casually barge into the basement once discovered. The consequences was only fired after signing a confidentiality agreement. Eunhan started a day of work when she went to the warehouse to clean Ko Vo Tin, saw Chan Ki's wedding photo. The woman's face was covered. Eunhan wanted to see what she looked like, just reached out when the alarm suddenly rang. Eunhan ran downstairs to find the security guard holding a maid. She stole the mistress's jewelry. kneel down. Beg Su-chin not to fire her? She let her live, but Su-chin even called the police and told everyone not to reveal this to the outside world at work next time. Eun-han often discussed Chan-ki with her colleagues. Han's #1 fan was very curious about who the mistress was, but her coworkers said that the mistress had moved out. Chan-ki seemed to be preparing for divorce, so they broke up. Eun-han was a little surprised. While cleaning the bathroom, she saw Chan-ki's program today. Why was he wearing that? He doesn't like silver, but Su-chin suddenly changed her expression. A new maid came. How did she know the owner's preferences? Eun-han couldn't answer because she said it subconsciously. She didn't know why she said those words. Su-chin thought she had another purpose and repeatedly warned her not to look. Flirting with Trang-ki, not everyone can be his match. Eun-han felt wronged and couldn't explain clearly, so she turned around and continued her work on the stairs leading down to the basement. Eun-han suddenly felt a little curious downstairs. What exactly was going on? She threw the toilet paper roll in her hand down the stairs. She used the excuse of getting something to enter the basement. The dark feeling made her shiver Suin after being warned many times, but Eun-han was even more curious about what this house was hiding, what secret it was hiding when she went to clean the cellar. She accidentally discovered a phone she originally intended to give to Su-chin, but her arrogant attitude made Eun-han is not happy at this moment. Chin doesn't know that the phone in Eun-han's hand is the thing she is looking for evidence of Chuni's crime inside. But she completely lost the idea of telling others to keep looking. The two maids were so tired that they sat on the lawn complaining. I recently found out that the mistress was not at home. She considered herself the mistress of the house and heard these words, Chin. She walked slowly. Outwardly she was calm, but in her heart she had already thought of a despicable way to order someone around. Su-chin told the waitress who was always complaining to go and clean the gazebo. The floor was clean. It was obviously intentional. The waitress complained again. Su-chin then walked over to her. She thought everyone got the same salary. Am I like you guys? You and I are not on the same level. If I were an outsider, you would be nothing. Even workers have a hierarchy. Besides, Su-chin loves Chan-ki very much. She, not Tom, wanted to become the boss. She couldn't stand it when people gossiped about her. She glared at the waitress, her face red. Su-chin warned her not to talk behind her back. Next time, it wouldn't just be a simple slap. In the evening, Chan-ki had dinner with the family. Su-chin told Eun-han to serve wine, but after serving the wine, not only did she not leave, but she also placed a bowl of Chinese dates in front of Chan-ki, saying that this was his snack. Everyone was surprised to hear this. Under what circumstances would anyone understand that such a person lived together or had investigated very carefully? Su-chin's face was very ugly, thinking that Eun-han wanted to steal her man. Looking at everyone's suspicious gazes, Su-chi said that she had already told Eun-han. Finally, she waited until no one was around, then she grabbed Eun-han. Who are you? What is your purpose in coming to this house? Eun-han couldn't say the reason because she herself had forgotten. She was the owner of this house. The atmosphere turned cold. Fortunately, another waitress came to help Eun-han escape the encirclement and also warned her not to resist. Su-chin's tricks were not something that ordinary people could endure. Just as she was about to do so, Eun-han returned to Kang Yu's house. The two chatted and laughed happily, completely without feeling any pressure at work. Because they had been together for a long time, Kang Yu developed feelings for Eun-han, but Eun-han didn't dare to reciprocate. She didn't know clearly what kind of person she was before. Perhaps because she was worried, she always had the same dream in her. She was arguing with a man. But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't see the other person's face clearly. So she was even more curious about what had happened before. Clearly, he had only been working for a few days, but he understood the housekeeper's living habits very well. He knew that he only drank warm water. He liked to eat jelly beans when he drank alcohol. He also knew his habit of putting a pillow on the headboard of the bed. Another maid saw this and became a little suspicious. She had slept with the live host. Right. How could a normal person know such things? Something might have happened to him with the housekeeper. Eun-han lost her memory and panicked. She considered herself a bad woman who had no direct contact with the Yu family, so she packed her things and prepared to leave. but when she went downstairs, she ran into Kim An. He was following the U group, following the clues, looking for Eunhan. Fortunately, Eunhan was not recognized. The U group only used a few blows to drive him away. At the same time, he also brought Eunhan home, not wanting her to encounter any more danger. The next day, when she went to work, a dog ran out from the tycoon family's yard. Eunhan was frightened and kept backing away. Her center of gravity was unstable and she fell into a puddle of mud. The dog frantically ran forward, but the result was this. What? What's wrong? What's wrong? Chang-ki ran over. A little surprised that this dog was trained by an expert to wag its tail only at people close to it. It never treated strangers like this. Chang-ki was puzzled, not knowing that the woman in front of him was his ex-wife. Although her face had changed and she had lost her memory, but the smell of Eunhan's body was still there, so the dog was so obedient. Seeing that Eunhan's whole body was dirty, Chang-ki took his wife's clothes and gave them to her to change. But when she opened the door and walked out, Chang-ki was stunned with a blank expression on his face. If it's not similar, then the figure, movements, and even the voice are a bit similar. I'll wash it tomorrow. Bring it in. There's no need to bring it in anyway. I have to throw it away. Take out my wife's photo and look at Eunhan's back, leaving Chang-ki momentarily not understanding why the two of them look so similar. Walk to the door. Eunhan bumps into X. Chin and Chan's mother are extremely surprised. They both see that Eunhan looks exactly like the mistress who disappeared for other intentions than Chang-ki. Su-chin is very dissatisfied with the scene before his eyes. Slandering Eunhan stole the mistress's clothes. Determined to throw her out at that moment, Chang-ki comes down. The bailiff knew that the clothes were given by himself. Su-chin was even more upset. In the evening, Chang-ki went to the dog. Su-chin initially wanted to talk to him, but the dog immediately lost its docile appearance as soon as it saw her. This made Su-in jealous of Eunhan, who had only been there for 2 days but managed to befriend the dog. She had been in that house for so many years. The dog had always been wary of her. Hearing these words, Chang-ki couldn't help but feel uneasy. He ordered Sushi to find Eunhan quickly. If not, pack up and leave. Every word and sentence was an order. It was also a yearning for his subordinates. For the wife who ran away, Su-chin immediately lost all smiles, secretly waiting for Eunhan to die outside. Kim was affected by the ability to make money day and night to help Su-chin searching for Eunhan's whereabouts. Kim broke into Kang Yu's house and discovered some clues in a drawer with a photo of Eunhan before plastic surgery and also had a file mark on it. Kim guessed roughly immediately, called XCH, told her that Eunhan had plastic surgery and returned to Chang-ki's house to work as a maid, clearly just a housekeeper in the house. But after the mistress disappeared, she flattered the boss, pretending to be worthy, pity the man who wanted to find his wife. But she bribed Kim to order him to find someone, and then died to replace the mistress's position, until Kim called Suin and found out that the maid in the house was Eunhan. After the plastic surgery, she began to watch Eunhan's every move, wanting to see what her purpose was, but Eunhan had lost her memory. Facing Suin's piercing gaze, she always felt uneasy, not knowing what she had done wrong. Suchi grabbed her arm. The scar on it was enough to prove her identity. But her confused expression was really what made X-Chin confused. In the end, could only order a maid to secretly follow her to see what she would do on the other side. Kim went to Yu's cosmetic hospital. He kidnapped a nurse because he asked Yu, the real Yu, had performed cosmetic surgery on Eunhan. But after the surgery, Eunhanan lost her memory and didn't remember what happened before, so she mistakenly returned to that house very quickly. Sui received a phone call from Kim. The woman heard that she had lost her memory due to the after effects of the cosmetic surgery, so she didn't remember anything. X-Chin finally understood everything. She looked at Chang-ki from upstairs. She intended to tell him the truth, but thought again. If Chang-ki knew, she still had a chance to go first. X-Chin finally hid the truth and called Kim again. Tomorrow is very special. I will contact you. It seems like he wants to be cruel. Poor Han didn't know anything. The next day at work, she accidentally revealed the route to work to her coworker. She immediately told X-Chin, and Kim also got the phone. Get ready to block Eunhan at the exit. Take her to a place no one knows. Go to the subway station. Eunhan's phone was hit by someone. She fell and bent down to pick it up just in time to see it. Kim was not far away. Han noticed the danger, calmly picked up a mirror to determine Kim's position, then looked at the surveillance camera behind her. Han walked over and deliberately argued with Kim under the surveillance camera. Just as Kim was about to take her away, a patrolling police officer came and seized the opportunity. Han quickly entered the subway, but Kim kept chasing them, the two playing cat and mouse, one advancing and the other retreating. They walked back and forth, seeing that the door was about to close. Han used a small light to block Kim from outside. She successfully escaped. She went to find Kang Yu to find him, but found that Kang Yu had brought 2 other people with her. It turned out that Yu had also investigated Eunhan's identity, knowing that she still has a family, so she wants the whole family to be reunited. At this time, the mother and Suhan did not recognize Eunhan, but when they saw her bracelet and the scar on her wrist, the two could only believe that she had had plastic surgery. Just as they were about to recognize each other, there was suddenly another person at the door. He sensed something, so he quickly walked over and grabbed Eunhan's wrist. Han glared at her and forced her to leave. At first, he didn't hesitate to pursue his wife at all costs. But after getting married, he continuously harassed her family. In the end, his wife couldn't bear it anymore and ran away from him. The man began to regret and couldn't contain his longing, but he didn't expect that his wife would have plastic surgery, and because of it, she would lose her memory. At the time of the fingerprint comparison, Eunhan also found it hard to accept the fact. He arranged for her and her family to leave first. Trang Ki followed Kang Yu to the hospital. The medical record clearly stated that Eunhan had volunteered to have plastic surgery. When Kang Yu said that someone was looking for her, Chan Ki was stunned and immediately changed the subject. It was because of depression. My wife had been taking antidepressants for more than 5 years. What kind of depression? I didn't detect that Eunhan had any symptoms of depression. You still wanted to say something, but Chang Ki didn't want to listen anymore. When you left, you didn't forget to warn me not to interfere in other people's business. When you returned home, the first person Trang Ki saw was Suchi. Since she didn't know that Eunhan had been found, Suin's mood didn't seem bad, but Chan Ki's next words left her stunned. She found her. Still looking. She said she was still looking. In the end, who did you tell to go look for her? How useless is your family? You found her and still say you're looking for her. What are you saying? I found her, and I heard that Chang Ki will take her back. Tomorrow, Su In protested that the phone still hasn't found enough criminal evidence to destroy Chan Ki. If Eunhan restores her memory, she will probably make everything public. Chan Ki only nodded, listening. Anyway, the phone is hidden by Eunhan. Who knows? Maybe we can still find it before Su Chin can't shake it carefully to avoid being found out about the story of killing Eunhan. She and Kim cut off their relationship again. She threw the phone between the two of them into the lake. She looked at the dusty basement. Sui burst into a more evil thought. She was planning to get back together, so I'll provoke her, awakening her most painful memories so far she will go crazy the next day. Chan Ki went to pick up Eunhan early in the morning while talking. Eunhan mentioned that she had a phone left at home. Kang U Chan Ki's eyes suddenly widened, originally intended to take it back on the way, but Eunhan said today Kang Yu didn't go to work. Chan Kai can't force it either. He can only take Eunhan home first because he forgets. Everything before Eunhan always feels uncomfortable. Doesn't want to call Chan Ki's husband, also doesn't want to have any physical contact in front of her mother-in-law. She doesn't even dare to look directly. But when Chan Ki told him about her plastic surgery, Dung's father's attitude was extremely agitated. Why didn't you go out and finish it? Why did you have to go back? Why did you come back? This slap startled Eunhan, and she didn't wait for Dung's father to say anything more. He took her directly upstairs and apologized, but Han didn't react. After hearing this, yesterday she was still a maid. Today she had become the mistress of the house. This difference made her temporarily unable to accept it. At the same time, she also began to wonder what she had done wrong in the past to make Dung's father abandon her like that. This man was sitting there. In the computer room, dozens of surveillance cameras were monitoring his wife's every move. When Eunhan got up from her chair, lowered her head, and began searching for something, Chan Ki immediately tensed up, not taking his eyes off the surveillance screen, and walked downstairs. Eunhan finally found what he was looking for. He found it, and the two maids also came. Looking at the diamond earrings in Eunhan's hand and the expensive clothes on her body, the two maids confirmed that she was a thief. After all, how could the person who went to work yesterday become the mistress of the house today? They held Eunhan tightly, took off her earrings, and began to undo the buttons. Her shirt said no matter what, you must go to the police station one trip. Soo-chin stood in the corner watching the drama until the two people went too far, then stood up. What are you doing? The two maids stood up unexpectedly. Soo-in confirmed Eunhan's identity and prepared to give them a slap to remember for the rest of their lives. Eunhanan reached out to stop them at the same time, saying that force cannot solve. Any problems, take your things back. Eunhanan tiredly went back to the room. Chung-ki came to comfort, but Eunhan said you can pretend you don't know first. No one yesterday was still a maid, today has becoming the master. This feeling made Eunhan very tired. The servants also gossiped and thought that Eunhan used some trick to climb up the high branch during the night. After hearing this, Chaki couldn't help but feel sorry, but could only give her time to slowly digest before. How I lived before I remembered, so just live like this on the other side. You discovered Kim accidentally. After controlling him, he immediately called Chan-ki. Chan-ki informed Eunhan to go to the police station to make a report, but Soo-in began to worry for fear that Kim would report her, so she said that he will go with Eunhan before leaving Soo-chin. He called Kim to find out that the person being hunted was the wife of a tycoon. Kim immediately panicked. Soo-in used this to threaten him not to admit anything. Otherwise, they would all only perish. Together, Kim agreed, but unexpectedly, he heard the content of their conversation. Realized that the person being chased Eunhan was next to Chunky. Tense Yu made an appointment to meet Chenki. At the same time, he returned the phone with the evidence. In hand, Chenki didn't care who was chasing Kim. He happily returned to the company. The girl asked him what he was laughing at in the evening. Chenki happily gave her a beauty coupon, invited Eunhan to dinner, and gave her the phone so she could think of the password to unlock it. Eunhan tried a few times and managed to open the phone, but the contents inside were not what Chenki wanted. He began to suspect that Eunhan had hidden the phone before he lost his memory. Where was it anyway? Chenki had no idea at all. He could only continue following Eunhan and try to find the phone through her. At this time, please give her a shock. Therapy suggestion: take Eunhan to the place where she was most unhappy. Maybe she will be able to remember everything. The woman went towards the cold and gloomy basement, made her a little uneasy, pushed the door open, screamed miserably, made Eunhan fall to the ground. Suddenly, Chan-ki from inside came out. He said he was watching a movie regardless of Eunhan's trembling body. He still pulled her into the room where it was familiar and strange. Eunhan vaguely saw a little girl sitting on the sofa. In the blink of an eye, the little girl disappeared. Eunhan asked Chan-ki if the two had already given birth to a daughter. Chan-ki heard it, immediately denied looking at. Eunhan didn't remember anything. He could only let her out first, but Soo-chin still didn't give up the intention of fighting Eunhan again. When she preparing to go upstairs, she pretended to be interested and said that there was still a room that Eunhan used to go to, but now it was locked without Chan-ki's order. No one dared to open it for sure. Eunhan was curious about that room, but since there was no key, she could only call a servant to ask everyone who came to work there if they had signed a confidentiality agreement. The servants didn't dare to talk nonsense, but in the face of Eunhan's urgent attitude, she still provided some clues that in the cabinet under the TV was the key to that room. How could I tell? But I couldn't tell what I should do now to get the key. Eunhan opened the door to an empty room filled with only a few boxes. Eunhan held a small knife and prepared to open the box, but when she saw the tip of the knife, she seemed to remember something. It turned out that Eunhan not only wondered once she tried to escape, but every time Chan-ki stood in front of her with an arrogant expression, remembering these things. Eunhan no longer had the courage to open the box. She turned around wanting to escape from this room, but the door was locked. Soo-chin outside tightly grabbed the door handle. No matter how much Eunhan begged for help, she had no intention of letting go until the two servants heard the sound, rushed to Soo-chin, then reluctantly let go, and Eunhan also fainted. Two servants hurriedly called a car to the hospital. Eunhan faintly saw a patient. The deformed mark on his wrist once again awakened painful memories in Eunhan because of too much fear. Eunhan fainted on the ground. It happened that Jiang-yu was here for a meeting. Eunhan was brought into the hospital room after waking up. Her mood was still restless. Crying, she told Jiang-yu that she didn't want to remember the past anymore. What if they were all painful memories? What to do? Jung-woo comforted her patiently and then contacted Chan-ki. She saw him. Eunhan's eyes were full of avoidance. But even so, why are the two of them husband and wife? Eunhan also has no reason to stay by the side tents. You can only follow Chan-ki back to that house the first time. Eunhan dropped the phone in her room once again, pushed the door open in her heart. Couldn't help but look at the cardboard boxes next to her. She was curious not knowing what was inside, but when cutting the tape on it, Eunhanan only saw some fairy tales, still wanted to keep looking. Then Soo-chin came in a tone as if, why did she come here? Made Eunhan uncomfortable in the end. Who is the owner of this house? It's your turn to give me orders. How have you ever seen a green tea manager like that? Kick out the housewife. In front of the tycoon's wife, saying that the owner hates her. She can't take it anymore, so she wants to resign. Dad. Dung holds the resignation letter and tears it up just because he appreciates her work ability. But she runs in front of Chan-ki, gently makes him sit down and insists on fucking the other side Thai-style Eunhan. Looking at the fairy tales in the box, she suddenly remembers that the little girl she saw before also held this fairy tale book to find the picture of the little girl in Han. It's your turn to give me orders. How have you ever seen a green tea manager like that kick out the housewife in front of the tycoon's wife, saying that the owner hates her? She can't take it anymore, so she wants to resign. Father Dung holds the resignation letter and tears it up just because he appreciates her work ability. But she runs in front of Chan-ki, gently makes him sit down and insists on fucking the other side Thai-style Eunhan, looking at the fairy tales in the box. She suddenly remembers that the little girl she saw before was also holding this fairy tale book to find the picture of the little girl. Eunhan stopped the servant before asking, no. I don't know. I don't know how I know who knows, also don't say no. I don't know, don't say either. Stuttering attitude clearly knows something, but before Eunhan can ask more, the servant hurriedly leaves, carrying Eunhan full of doubts to the basement looking for Chan-kai. At this moment, he is busy doing shady things with X-Chin. The knock on the door pulls him back to reality. Soo-chin quickly hides and Eunhan only sees Chan-ki sitting on the sofa pretending to sleep. Seeing as he is very tired, Eunhanan can only put aside the doubts in her heart and go upstairs with him. Soo-chin behind the door showing off, unwilling to accept these days of victory without seeing the light. When will this end? It seems that she needs to quickly plan to drive out Eunhan. Father Dung is her first step, taking advantage of Father Dung's prejudice against Eunhan. She quickly took the initiative in this family. She thought that Trung Soo-chin was just a housekeeper. Why is she the bridge between me and the company? Also, the person who takes care of the mother and child from head to toe. Without her, it's fine. But without her, our family can't function for a single day. If you don't know anything, don't be arrogant to Chung Soo-chin. Don't listen to it. I don't know. Still thought Eunhan was the weird one. Even Chan-ki couldn't listen anymore and said he would take care of his wife without his mother pointing fingers, and even more so without X-Chin being there, adding fuel to the fire, pulling up his pants, not recognizing people, should give him the Chaenam Award to escape the stuffy atmosphere in the house. Eunhan had to go to the cafe to sit, unexpectedly. A woman came to her. She is Chi Eunhan, right? No, right. Who are you? Choose. Use this. Flatten your wrist or flatten your face. The woman who claims to be the wife of Eunhan's main doctor is Dung. Choose because of Dung-chan bought an apartment for Eunhan and also transferred tens of millions to her. Dung gritted her teeth and said that Eunhan had ruined her family and should be torn apart. Fortunately, the waiter next to her stopped Eunhan in time so that she wouldn't get hurt. She could only leave full of doubts. She went to Tent Yu, but found that Tent Yu had been investigating Dung for a long time. Now she couldn't contact this person, leaving only an apartment where Eunhan's name was actually written. Hanan saw these things. Hanan believed the woman's words. She could no longer face Eunhan alone. She took a taxi and left. She intended to go to the rooftop to ending his life again. Unexpectedly, Tang Yu chased him, which was equivalent to saving Eunhan a second time. But faced with these painful memories, Eunhan no longer had the courage to continue accepting the two of them staying there until night. Tang Yu told another story. It turns out he had always been investigating the person behind Kim. All the evidence pointed to Soo-chin. Tang Yu told Eunhan when he got home, he should always be on guard against her remembering the fairy tale. Eunhan vaguely felt there was some secret she didn't know. In order to clarify the truth, she gave up the idea of self-control, So she returned to that house and went to the basement. A little girl appeared before her eyes. She lost her memory and thought that the child was her daughter, but everyone around her avoided talking about it until she opened the fairy tale book she had given to Suhan and found that in it were some words, "Save Grandpa, who is Grandpa?" Why did you have to save her? Facing Unhan's question, Suhan put on a very serious expression. He seemed to know something, but he didn't dare to say it to clarify the truth. Unhan had no choice but to find Chan-ki to confront him. Wait until you recover your memory, then you will naturally know. What's the use of doing these things now? It seems to make me even more unhappy. Grandfather really exists. Unhan directly. Search Dung to verify. At this time, she only invited Kang Yu to be her guest. Maybe there was something bad in the house that shouldn't be said outside. She told Unhan that she would soon get the answer she wanted. Then she ordered the two of them to sit down and have dinner with Kang Yu, hoping that he wouldn't make public the fact that Unhan had plastic surgery in response. Dung's father generously gave her a Land Rover. Sui said polite words. Unexpectedly, Kang Yu immediately opened her mouth and asked if she had sent Kim to kill Unhan. The smile on her face stiffened and was warned by Kang Yu. She became more determined. I want to get rid of Unhan. The next morning, Unhan was preparing. To go downstairs, Su Qin silently reached out. But Unhan was perceptive, but still realized what she was going to do, because on her shoulder she had her own messy hair that she still liked. Unhan was too lazy to pay attention to her, just warned her to stay away from her in the future. She looked really hateful, saying that Unhan went to the basement, Page Key was not there, a closet door caught Unhan's attention, opened the door. Inside there was a dark room. It's not my fault, I already said it's not my fault. Who would have thought that the humble and polite host of the program would, usually in private, it's like this. Unhan was scared and quiet. He walked away. Su Qin put her hand on his shoulder. She told her to stay a little away from me. You don't understand human language. Suin is also not angry. Laughing, said Chan-ki told her to come clean the room. Unhan asked why Chan-ki was like this. Su Qin indifferently said, maybe it's because the guest is coming. Is this the guest, Grandpa? Unhan couldn't help but curiously return to the room. Chan-ki was lying on the bed remembering. Her irritability, now Unhan was lying on the sofa not daring to sleep the next day while eating. She remembered the matter of being searched that day, just talking about the schedule, present for a maid. Unhan find her to question to determine that. Su Qin is the mastermind the two women finally face each other, but Suin's actions are very strange. If you want to talk nonsense like this, you must have evidence first. Otherwise, who will believe her before she was a depressed patient? Now she is an amnesiac patient in this house who will believe her words. It seems that mental illness is contagious because the staff is like the boss. Unhan. Open your eyes wide in surprise. Su Qin. Take the opportunity to kneel before her outside begging for forgiveness, but your mouth is stiff. Want to know why I'm like this? Then always keep a scared expression. Unhan trembled as he walked out of the room and turned to see Su Qin also following him, but she was prepared to control her expression, as if what had just happened had never happened. Unhan became more and more restless and asked Chan-ki to quickly shoot Su Qin, but Chan-ki didn't believe her until he finished watching the surveillance camera. The corner of Chan-ki's mouth began to curl up. The little girl met her mother for the first time after plastic surgery. The back was so familiar, but the face was so unfamiliar. The little girl unconsciously took a step back, making Unhan not know what to say now. Family Chan-ki's. Family took his grandfather home and it turned out that he had a daughter, but she had lost her speech. Han couldn't hold back her tears, her heart filled with guilt and self-blame. Grandpa didn't know how to use chopsticks for dinner. Han played the role of mother, but Father Dung, who was sitting opposite her, began to feel dissatisfied. The girl had just returned to the countryside, so she wasn't used to it. Not that she didn't know how to do it. Let her do what she can. Don't treat her like a sick person in front of me. Grandpa couldn't bear to hold the chopsticks in his hand any longer. Han couldn't bear to watch any longer, so he helped Father Dung. Just as he was about to speak, Chan-ki interrupted. The mother and daughter had not seen each other for a long time. It was nice to talk a little more after the meal. The grandfather lay down on the sofa and fell asleep. Chang-ki carried the little girl to bed. The family of 3 seemed quite harmonious. When the grandfather was asleep, he called out, "Mommy!" Eunhan's heart seemed to melt. At the same time, he decided to take on the responsibility of a mother so that the child would not come to any harm. But early in the morning, the grandfather disappeared. Eunhan, worried, went everywhere to look for him. But unexpectedly, the grandfather came to the kitchen. The little girl wanted to find the phone she had hidden before, but the phone had been taken away by Eunhan. The grandfather cried and sobbed. The maid returned in front of everyone. At this time, only Sui realized that grandfather was looking for something. She quickly went into the kitchen, turned everything upside down, but still couldn't find that important piece of evidence, walked into Eunhanan and Changki's room. Su-chin with only a frightened look. Ra closed her eyes tightly. It seemed that even the child was threatened by her. Eunhan suddenly felt the aura of maternal love secretly. She would definitely not let Su-chin hurt her daughter the next day. Father Dung decided to take Ji-jia to the doctor. Knowing that Su-chin would also go with Eunhan, she categorically refused, saying that she could take her daughter when she was alone. She asked, "Grandfather doesn't like X-chin." Grandfather blinked his eyes and finally wrote only one sentence. "If mother comes, I will clearly say that it is a mother-daughter relationship, but the daughter doesn't realize that her heart is suffocated by someone. She forgot the reason why she had to have plastic surgery." So one sentence from X-chin made her have more doubts about grandfather. The lady is more dangerous than me. Not long after, her maternal family came to visit her grandfather. This was the first time they had met. Grandfather clearly didn't know her. Han invited them to visit grandfather's children's room on the second floor, making the two realize that they hadn't changed rooms yet. Grandfather is in there. Isn't he scared? As Eunhan wondered, Shu-hun said that grandfather lost his ability to speak because he found out that grandfather, when he was little, had witnessed Eunhan's wrist being cut. He was so scared that he lost his ability to speak. As a mother, how could she let her child see such a scene? Eunhan was in great pain, but Shu-hun turned to ask Su-chin beside her. Didn't she say that the child already knew everything? Why did she do this? It seemed that this was Su-chin's plan. Eunhan had no time to blame her. Looking at her little daughter, her tears kept falling. At this moment, she didn't dare to touch her child. My daughter, also X-chin, decided to take advantage of the situation, but the grandfather immediately shook her hand away and insisted on going to the hospital with Eunhan. After all, blood relations are different. X-chin was so angry that his nostrils flared tea in the end. He could only let the mother and daughter leave together. A woman who wanted to marry into a tycoon family. How far would he go to harm the mistress by any means to make her hated by her mother-in-law? Then he threatened her daughter, causing the child's speech impediment to become more severe. Finally came before the father. Dong Dang Thuong said, "I think I need to resign because Sun that ghost is bullying you again." "That's right. It's like she's sick. Besides, she won't let me get close to the old lady. She's really more attractive than a TV series." Father Dung immediately called Eunhan in front of her and asked, "Why do you always confront X-chi?" Of course, Eunhan felt wronged, but she was a mother who became tougher on her children. She couldn't let her give me orders. Everything had to be based on her expression. She also had to take care of her life. Since she wasn't qualified, she hired someone. What would she do? Since she had amnesia, I didn't know what she would do. So please give me a chance to find out. Back to what I'll do. Look at Eunhan's attitude. She's so determined, Dad Dung. Give her a month within 1 month. Eunhan must take care of everything in the house. If she can't do it, then Su-chin will stay here. If she can do it, then she has the right to kick people out. Suin laughs contemptuously, thinking that Eunhan doesn't have this ability, but she underestimated this mother, and the next day, I'll hold a golden wine party. Eunhan wakes up very early, cleans the house from top to bottom, very clean, also makes suggestions about the company's new product. Dad Dung slightly changes his attitude towards her, arranges for her to come to the company for a detailed interview. At first, he wanted to take his daughter along, but as he was afraid that she would be afraid of crowds, Eunhan asked the housekeeper to look after her. He told them not to let Suin get close to her grandfather, but Su-chin was so scheming that how could she pass up this opportunity? Seeing her grandfather and the housekeepers in the kitchen, Suin took the opportunity to say that the dog was lost, luring her grandfather to look for her. Then, she took the girl to a corner hidden from the camera and threatened loudly that she would quickly tell him the location of the phone or she would take her to the basement. As expected, her grandfather was scared. The basement was a nightmare for the girl. She obediently wrote down the phone number. The phone was hidden in the cellar because she had been there before. Sui knew that the phone had been taken by someone else. She kept threatening the maid who had taken the phone before. She knew that the person who took the phone was Eun-han. But she didn't unlock it, thinking that someone else had dropped it, so she left it there. Yu picked it up to return it to Soo-chin and started thinking of a way to get it back. Eun-han, when she returned home, also discovered that her daughter was depressed. She asked for a long time before the girl spoke. Although she didn't know what was on the phone, seeing her daughter feeling offended, Eun-han immediately went to Soo-chin to question her. The fight between the two women began. Han didn't believe anything Soo-chin said, saying that she would kick her out before the party even started. Father Dung also made a decision since Eun-han had returned, so she made the news about her plastic surgery public. Upon hearing this, Sui immediately lost her composure. How could she replace her? She even lured Eun-han into the basement again. Soo-chin played a song called "Take Your Life with the Sound of Music." Eun-han began to feel a severe headache. At the same time, those fragmented memories also came flooding back. Her pain could not be cured with medicine. Why live in a hell like this? There is a better place. Fierce eyes, arrogant posture staring at the computer her husband used to monitor her. She only said one sentence starting from "Now Cheon." Han returned. Soo-chin smugly pulled Chanky to watch the play unexpectedly. Eun-han had calmed down. She sat on the sofa, slowly stood up, then walked in front of Soo-chin. This slap struck at Soo-chin's arrogance. She thought she was clever when she tricked Eun-han into the basement. The stimulant therapy really worked, but it also aroused hatred in Eun-han. She was no longer herself, even though... Anyway, they are back. So drag everyone to hell. Return to the room. Han hugged his daughter and cried. At first, he intended to take his daughter and run away. Her leg was twisted. Han could only promise that he would come back for her. He didn't expect things to end like this. Speaking of that phone, the grandfather honestly confessed that he had hidden it in the cellar. It was the phone that Una had taken when she was a maid. Inside, there was evidence of Chan's crime. Han hurriedly looked for Kang Yu and asked where the phone was now. Unexpectedly, Kang Yu's younger brother had sold it long ago. Han had no choice but to go home first, prepare the necessary things for the party in front of many friends. The press. Father Dung publicly revealed the secret of Eun-han's plastic surgery. The life of a tycoon family has many things that ordinary people do not know. Everyone is friendly. Changi invites them to the basement, watching the movie. Originally intended to show a documentary about the artist Duong Kam, Cho Sun-gun, unexpectedly the opening scene of the movie is this scene. It is a pity for those times because of the things that were shown, not knowing whether it is a sonnet or a fantasy version of Chopin. What kind of suffering are you enduring? Wait for me to go back to the company to deal with all this rubbish. Live your own life. A refreshing complaint can see that this woman is really a person on the outside. One faces another behind the back. The reporters got very angry without saying hello and left. Soo-chin wished she could find a hole to crawl. Father Dung asked her to apologize, looking at Eun-han's face, who was smiling, and not smiling. She immediately understood something. But as an employee, what right does she have to argue with Eun-han? Go back to the room in-laws to start thinking of a counterattack plan, while Eun-han rushed in front of the reporters with a gentle and virtuous appearance, putting all the responsibility on herself. With a person like that, who would care anymore? The next day, the reporters did not condemn the Chanky family in the newspaper. Father Dung thought that Suin's apology had worked. When questioned carefully, he found that it was all Eun-han's merit. Without comparison, there was no harm. Father Dung began to value Eun-han. Soo-chin was so anxious that she jumped out of bed, but she could only go find the whereabouts of the phone first. She thought that she could use it to scare Eun-han away. What a coincidence. And she found 2 clues at the same time. People came in front of the buyer. Soo-chin gritted his teeth and offered 35 billion. Unexpectedly, the buyer didn't agree she didn't want it because of greed for a small profit in front of him. But then Dukoa got into trouble. You received the phone call, and then softly came in front of Eunhan. Eunhan confessed to him that she had recovered her memory and said that she would definitely take revenge for the past she had gone through. So much just thinking about running away. Now she had changed. Her face and came back. Eunhan, eager to regain the initiative, the man rushed into the office and punched the doctor straight in the face tit for tat. The doctor also punched him. The conflict between the two originated from a sentence by Suin, who clearly knew that Kang, you had come to give the phone to Eun. Han Suin said that the two were dating, making Chan-ki angry and went straight to the hospital without saying a word. He grabbed the collar on the other side of Eun. Han went home and bumped into X-Chin. The bag in his hand accidentally fell. The shining phone was right in front of Su-chin. It was broad daylight, so he couldn't pick it up. Su-chin looked at Eun. Han only saw his nervousness. He ran upstairs and quickly hid the phone in the drawer to make the phone make a name for itself. Su-chin actually entered Eun's room. Han Eunhan in the corner of the room, watching Changi go home silently. Then Eunhan adjusted his state and stepped forward to say that he met Kang-woo today and took the phone back from him. Changi listened and immediately went to Eunhan's room. Han found that the phone was nowhere to be found and quickly checked the surveillance camera today. Who was it? Then he showed the room. Another surveillance camera showed that Suin hadn't gone far. Chan-ki followed him to check the bag and sure. Enough, the phone was inside. This time, it was really her doing, no matter how much Suin explained. Changi still suspected that she wanted to talk to him. After a while, scolding Changi to go find Eunhan and ask for the password to unlock the phone, taking the opportunity to lose his memory, Eunhan began to pretend to be stupid. Su-chin thought he was smart again. Let's try calling. Maybe this isn't the phone we're looking for. Chang-ki secretly agreed. Su-chin also dialed Eunhan's previous phone number. The phone actually rang, but they didn't know that Eunhan had copied all the contents. Chan-ki didn't know anything, but he was still happy. X out. Tonight he could sleep well. He took out the phone, intending to erase the evidence inside. Unexpectedly, Su-chin interrupted her, thinking that Eunhan was using trick. Anyway, she has already recovered her memory. How can she hand over the phone? Whether these words are true or false is yet to be considered. Chan-ki obediently put away the hammer. Eunhan, who was far away, saw everything. Is this just the beginning of the act, or are you still waiting behind? Let's see how I will destroy each of you. The next day, Tan Yu found Kim in the hospital. Ever since he was released on bail, Kim has been pursued by Su-chin. He is a person in the industry. X-chin is nothing compared to Kim. He died and came back to life. He came to Tan Yu for help. Knowing that he had evidence in hand, X-chin pointed out that Tan Yu did not report the case to the police, but handled it himself. Treating the wound, the arrogant Chi still didn't know that disaster was about to happen. Already having an affair with Chan-ki, she carelessly mentioned Eunhan's past. How many housewife families were lucky that these words didn't stimulate Eunhan? Previously, she had bypassed the ghost gate in the basement. Now, her stamina had increased by 100. No matter what kind of buffalo or horse she was, if she wanted to be strong, she just had to come here quickly. Suin didn't expect the weak Eunhan to become so strong. She said that she was the one who could bring Chan-ki happiness. Only by marrying her would Chan-ki be normal. Eunhan listened. I found it funny. Not to mention the identity. Just that this twisted Tam Quan is not with that bastard Chan-ki is really a pity. But now she doesn't want to fulfill the two. Just let them be together like this. It's really too kind. From the outward appearance, it's fair. From behind, he hit his wife's hand, rolled up the red silk before she could do anything. The woman was so scared that she fell to the ground. Chan-ki began to clench his fists, grabbed Eunha's collar and threw it straight into the corner like that, still not satisfied. In anger, he threw her on the sofa, about to do anything, when he saw the light outside. A slightly blinding wolf kept knocking on the door. Page Key began. His forcing behavior to wait until he was a little angry. Eunha was in so much pain that he couldn't get up. Su-chin brought the ointment and the insinuations were all mocking Eun. Han didn't want revenge. Why was he still discovered now? Gigi had aphasia, opened his mouth to speak. Chang-ki was extremely happy, promised to take the girl to the park to play. but the next day he still broke his promise. Eunhan took Grandpa to the aquarium alone. Unexpectedly, Tan-yu was also here. Grandpa wasn't scared, but on the contrary saw him very close. The three of them went to the restaurant to eat. I couldn't help but advise Eunhan to leave that house soon, once Tranky knew that he had regained his memory, so his ending would be worse than before. Eunhan didn't agree after hearing this, but when he got home, his daughter accidentally told him that she had regained her memory. She still didn't say anything. Why did she say that all of a sudden? Mom, didn't you come back? Why don't you look like yourself? Now you know that this is your mother. Before you would twist your ankle when you went out with your mother. Only your mother knew about this. The others absolutely didn't know, so it was like this. Oh my God, our clever niece, your biological daughter betrayed your mother. When she returned to her room, the first thing Eunhan saw was a natural-colored dress. But then she immediately had a severe headache because just when she was about to act, Changi forced Eunhan to wear it. Eunhan wanted to turn around and leave, but Changi came after her and forced her down to the basement. At this point, her whole body was shaking as she staggered down to the basement. What awaited her was the nightmare from before. Ex-Chin, of course, knew what happened. After mocking Eunhan, she threw out a set of clothes and invited him to be a guest. If she didn't want to lose face, she should put it on, or she could run out and ask for help to see if Eunyu could get her out of that house. Eunhan clearly understood that Su-Chin was selling. What medicine? If she asks for help, she will be labeled as having depression. By then, don't even mention revenge for the rest of her life. She will have to stay in a mental hospital after changing her clothes. Eunhan sat in front of everyone with a pale face, soulless eyes. Father Dung asked her where she had gone. She replied indifferently. Just fell asleep in the basement. Tense, you immediately understood her situation before leaving. He intentionally announced tomorrow Father Dung and Chanki will play golf. If you want to escape, then you can take this opportunity. Eunhan went back to pack her bags, but accidentally overheard the conversation between Su-Chin and Chanki. Su-Chin instigated. Chanki deduced Eunhan or sent her to a mental hospital, but Chan Kai didn't agree. He had a very strong possessive desire, wanting to tie Eunhan to his side. Such a twisted mentality made Eunhan feel scared. He called Kang Yu. She said that tomorrow she would definitely take her daughter to escape at night sleeping in the same bed. Chan Ki looked at his daughter with a bit of regret. The next day, he immediately canceled the play date and invited his mother-in-law and sister-in-law over, hoping that through this method Eunhan could forget everything that happened yesterday. This action broke Eunhan's plan, and she secretly contacted Kang Yu, the two of them. She thought of another escape plan, but before she could execute it, Chan Ki outside the door heard everything, and his eyes turned fierce again, ordering Su-Chin to contact the mental hospital to have Eunhan committed permanently, so that she would not ignore her delusion of wanting to take her daughter with her. Su-Chin hurriedly contacted the hospital, with an expression that showed that a good day was coming. Grandpa only glanced at her once and was immediately locked in a dark room. Unexpectedly, Dung's father appeared. Chin could not find the key to open the door afterwards. Being scolded, doesn't even mention marrying a rich family, doesn't even have a chance to get close to grandfather. Seems that in this house, Father Dung is the one in power. Eunhan knows that she won't harm the old lady. She promised her daughter that she would come and pick her up in 10 days. Looking at the car keys in front of her, an escape plan emerges in her heart. The man is allergic to red ginseng, but his wife puts red ginseng in every dish. Seeing him eat greedily, the wife knows that he will faint soon, taking the opportunity to go and get dessert. Eunhan grabbed the car keys and ran out, but didn't wait for her to come out besides the innocent daughter. She accidentally said it again. Mom just told me that she would be away for 10 days before coming back. Here is the rhythm of wanting to escape. Chang Ki immediately stood up. Sue blocked in front of him and said, if he still has a conscience, then let her go. Chan Ki is good at fighting. Want to hear these nonsense words immediately. Contact the team's safety. Don't let a single ant escape. Turn off the phone and the body will react. Chang Ki holds his chest and can't breathe. Cha Dong has no choice but to take the allergy injection. At this moment, Eunhan took large steps forward and discovered the car. Chan hurriedly sat down and locked the door. The security guards chased after Eunhan, who hadn't driven for many years, wondering if he would become a street killer. As soon as he started walking, the security guards surrounded Eunhan, who didn't have time to hesitate. He stepped on the accelerator and drove to the gate. The shiny iron barrier made Eunhan a little scared, but after remembering what had happened in the past, she was still determined and decided to leave this house forever. At that moment, Kang-woo also drove to the gate, gradually remembering him. Eunhan had more courage than a car accident that could happen in the next second, but the wings. The door suddenly opened and Han got into Kang-woo's car. Unexpectedly, the person who let her go was Dung's father, as he knew his son's extremism and strength. Dung's father hoped that his son would not continue to make mistakes. But how could Chan-ki give up easily? He called Ka-yu and ordered him to quickly take the person back. Eunhan answered the phone saying that she would divorce him and also take her daughter. Otherwise, the evidence of her crime would be found by the police. At that moment, Chan-ki knew that Eunhan had copied the evidence. He became angry and restless. The only person who was a little angry was Soo-chin. Not long after, Father Dung found Eunhan through the stretcher. It turned out that she knew about Eunhan's plastic surgery. She even met her by chance and knew clearly what her son had done to Eunhan. Father Dung didn't want Eunhan to come back, but fate was cruel. Father Dung had to work hard. Looking for that phone, thinking about destroying the evidence later and forcing her son to divorce Eunhan. You could see that Father Dung was not a bad person, but towards her son, she still couldn't bear to do it. She begged Eunhan not to hand over the evidence to the police to let her convince Chan-ki. After the divorce, Peace Eunhan could offering to go as compensation. Father Dung also got Eunhan a job. Anyway, having a job can support his daughter. Eunhan's eyes were red with tears as she agreed, but she had one condition: to fire Suin, a person who was given to her when she was desperate. If she continued to stay at home, there would only be more trouble. Father Dung did not expect X-Chin to have such a side. After returning home, he fired her immediately, but Chan-ki stopped his mother and said that Eunhan would definitely not hand over the evidence at this crucial moment. Grandpa was his trump card. Looking at the son who could not be saved late, then looked back X-Chin, with a reluctant expression, Father Dung resolutely went upstairs, thinking about the years that Thang's beautiful youth wasted in this house. Suin couldn't help but clasp her hands on her heart, and also began to calculate how to be able to kill those who made her uncomfortable. The man who beat and chased his wife but locked his son in the house was his last trump card. Father Dung couldn't take it anymore, so he advised him to quit his job and go see a psychologist. Chan-ki looked confused why he had to go see a doctor. Wasn't it just beating people that man wouldn't beat his wife? Look, the child in front of his father had tears in his eyes. So what if there was a lot of money? An abnormal son. In the end, it was due to lack of persuasion. Father Dung tiredly returned home. Please go and give Father Dung the evidence that Eunhan sent him. It turns out that she had an affair with Chan-ki a long time ago. No wonder she had been following him like a lake. Father Dung's face changed immediately, but Soo-chin didn't care. If Eunhan's evidence was just that, she wouldn't have been able to bring down Chan-ki. The next day, Chan-ki falsified evidence to slander him. You performed plastic surgery on Eunhan, who was suffering from depression. This was crazy. He took the egg certificate and left. Threatening the two people unexpectedly saw a scene that was extremely harmonious. This smile was familiar and strange. Chan-ki felt unhappy thinking about how they had been so happy before. Now that the Star Changer was gone, Chan-ki could only leave alone on the other side. Shu-chi became more and more arrogant, glaring at Father Dung. He also no longer had the same respect as before. The new butler arrived. I pushed him away. What did you say? If there is something you want to tell me. Tell me, are you sure you don't have any serious illness? The man you love doesn't love you. This family doesn't welcome you. Why do you keep clinging to kill mercilessly? Leave fine blanket Ki-Soo-chin. Even make a blatant suggestion anyway. Is there already a video or public they are husband and wife? They put all the blame on Eunhan. Chan-ki looked at this woman in astonishment. Don't think that just sleeping with him once can make you become the mistress of the family in fiat. She herself is a person with a personality that likes to be abused. Suin was not the least bit discouraged by these words. She called Eunhan and said that she absolutely would not argue with Chan-ki, even if she could not become his mistress. She would always be by his side. Eunhan was too lazy to pay attention to this woman. Dian's purpose in sending the video was for her to threaten Chan-ki into borrowing her hand to achieve the purpose of divorce. As for whether the two of them could live happily until their hair turned gray, she had no time to care. But at this time, the police came to find Dung's father to accuse her of inciting Kim to kill Eun. Han had solid evidence, so he took her away directly. Soo-chin looked panicked, but it was clearly his conspiracy. Before leaving, Dung's father handed the video to the maid, but after the police car drove away, Soo-chin immediately turned to look at her grandfather. Fortunately, the maid was very loyal. Immediately protected grandfather behind grandfather was still young, called mother, heard that Dung's father was arrested by the police. Eunhan hurriedly asked about the situation. Unexpectedly, Soo-chin came. To the door, madly knocked on the door. Scared grandfather, not daring to speak to mother, realized something wrong. Eunhan immediately ran home at this time. Ex-chin was teaching the servants without my permission. No one is allowed to let anyone in. From now on, I am the owner of this house. I finished speaking. Then ex-chin went to the door. Now see now, without my order. Don't even think about coming back here. Eunhan was angry to the point of going crazy, but there was also no way to enter defenseless. She had to call Chaiki to threaten him if he didn't open the door. She would do anything. Daughter in Soo-chin hands, wife locked outside the door. Chong-ki acted calmly and suggested Eunhan go eat. I have to say that anyone who knows a man like this is really unlucky. Holding a glass of red wine from the waiter, she poured it all over her husband's head, leaving everyone around stunned. This is the most famous announcer in the land of kimchi. As a wife, how can you do such a thing? Chang-ki pulled her out to question, but she only used 2 pointers to push Chan-ki away. Don't touch. I am no longer. Cheun-han has been beaten up. Don't dig your own grave. Don't make me worse. Let's see whose grave the grass will grow in first. Now I can only open my eyes to watch you fall. Now you have publicly revealed the secret of Eunhan's plastic surgery. This is the last trump card in your hand. He would rather let the public focus on me than Eunhan continue to be threatened by Chan-ki. Understand your heart. Eunhan finally confronts Chan-ki, directly declares that he will expose the evidence of his adultery, and the first time he commits a crime, he feels insecure and scared. Chan-ki locked himself in the bathroom. The bottle of wine and sedatives next to him showed what he was going to do. Despite Soo-chi frantically banging the door, from outside, Chang-ki swallowed. The sedatives, took a big gulp of wine, and then crawled into the bathtub. The sound of the door slamming attracted the maid and the grandfather. As expected, the two contacted Eunhan. This was Channy's final killer move. He wanted to use self-control to stop Eunhan in any way. Besides being her husband, he was also Eun's father. Han, how could he let him control himself, leaving a shadow for the grandfather who was so young? Sui quickly got the bathroom key. With the help of the maid, finally Chang-ki was taken to the hospital, looking at him unconscious. Eunhan felt very uncomfortable. Status and position were very important to him. Why the little grandfather was scared and thought it was because of him that made the father want to find the substance. Eunhan hugged his daughter, heartbroken, although he really wanted to make Chan-ki lose his reputation. But for the sake of his daughter, Eunhan still decided to give up mother and daughter to go to the hospital room to visit. Chang-ki woke up and put aside his previous arrogant attitude. Eunhan didn't want to say much and prepared to take his daughter, but ex-chin locked in front of him to let the grandfather stay. Come here. Dad is in this state. Mom isn't here. Mom wants to take her daughter away. What reason do you have to stop her in the end? Who gave her such blind trust? Really thinks that if the two of them get divorced, she will be satisfied. Chan-ki on the hospital bed sighs softly. Let her go. The children should still stay with the mother. It seems that because of her status changed, Kai is also very reckless. But after Eunhan left, her face changed. Self-omission is harmful to the image of the company. The culprit that caused all this is the tension in the hospital, and your company cooperates or does not arrest you. With a lump sum of money being paid, Trang-ki will probably lose sleep for 3 days. The announcement of a $3,500 billion compensation was released quickly, and the news is also spreading on the internet. Yu clearly knows that this is a trick by Chang-ki, and immediately goes to another news reporter in the news department to tell him about Chang-ki's plot, as well as what he did to Eunhan. This news reporter had always wanted to replace TH in Chan-ki's place, so he edited the news immediately. Or at this time, you also received a call from Dr. Chan-ki, who deliberately controlled himself just to deceive Eun-han, making her soft-hearted. Is really a wolf in sheep's clothing, with the tense intention of telling Eun-han. But unexpectedly, Chan-ki went one step ahead to Eun-han's mother's house, and even called Eun-han to the violent man to hold his wife. First, he used self-control to threaten. Then he ran to his mother-in-law's house and softly said that he would change his bad habit. From now on, he would not attack his wife again. Eun-han did not believe these evil words. The past had given her many opportunities. This time, even if she died, she did not want to return to Ki's page. The lost soul returned home. Soo-chin suddenly called him back. He also used self-control to stop him. Chun-han publicly released the video in his hand. Don't you care about the video in my hand? What do you want to say after the divorce? Let's start over with me. This is the best way for both of us. The announcer will keep his reputation intact. I will get the position of daughter-in-law of the corporation that I have always dreamed of. Raising a dog for many years, I ended up being bitten by a dog. But who can I blame? Everyone is an adult and should take responsibility for their actions. At this time, Dung's father also returned home. Soo-chin did not regret betraying me. Instead, she raised her head and said that she would definitely become the mistress of this house. She was considerate when she left that night. Going down to the basement to bring food, Chan-ki slowly stood up, but he had a blue ribbon wrapped around his hand. Without thinking, he knew what would happen next. Soo-chin threw the tray of food in fear, but Chan-ki rolled up his sleeves and walked towards him, step by step. Father Dung had just arrived at the door. The sight of her son shaking his fist startled her. She planned to tell her son later, but unexpectedly his attitude was very cold and said that it was just a welcoming ceremony. Father Dung finally realized his son's illness. If it continued like this, sooner or later, this house would be destroyed. She called. Eun-han decided to reveal her son's secret to her. Perhaps only then could her son return to normal. At this time, Soo-chin still didn't know that a beating to change her position as the master was the most suitable thing for her. She eagerly went to Eun-han's dressing room, but when she looked in the mirror, she found that she was still in the appearance of a housekeeper. From top to bottom, she didn't have the feeling of a master. Father Dung came to give her an ultimatum. If she wanted to leave now, she still had a chance. Don't wait until the last minute to regret it. X-Chin immediately transformed and grabbed Father Dung's neck and asked, "Why? Why don't you admit it? Why can't you leave here?" It seems that madness can also spread. Fortunately, the doorbell rang. Soo-chin simply let her go. The police brought. Kim to Soo-chin knew what the consequences were when she was taken to the police car. She still insisted that she was the owner of this house. The police were too lazy to argue with her, handcuffed her. Even if Soo-chin had wings, she couldn't fly away. On the other side, Chan-ki was working and also saw the news. The fake face outside, the person was exposed. He no longer had the face to live in this world. He was about to jump off the building to end it all. Eun-han chased him sin, but he is also the father of the chicken. He only needs to admit his sins. After leaving, he can still live a good life, knowing that his daughter is downstairs. In the end, Chan-ki didn't jump. He began to regret his past behavior after admitting everything. He went for psychological counseling, remembering everything he did to Eun-han. Chan-ki shed tears of pain, knowing in advance today why he did it. Eun-han now has nothing to do with him anymore, because there is tension in the world. Of Eun-hanan welcomed the long-lost son.